It's hard to imagine that in March 2019, China's political elites had any idea of the economic shock that was around the corner. While economic growth was slowing and the country was engaged in a bitter trade war with the United States, nobody would have imagined that China would soon be facing its worst economic crisis since the dying days of the Cultural Revolution. At the two sessions, China's annual policy-setting meetings, officials will try to stabilise the economy at a time when it's arguably becoming untethered from the global system amid the economic devastation of the coronavirus pandemic. Recent economic spats may offer clues as to China's direction. So too may the worsening situation with the United States, with many now discussing a potential new Cold War. Severely stagnated growth and mass unemployment around the world are likely to sharpen these tensions. The pandemic has been a game changer, and it may help to accelerate China's already shifting approach to geopolitics. Take Australia, for example. Support for an independent investigation into the origins of the pandemic is suspected to be behind a tariff of more than 80% on Australian barley exports to China, as well as a partial ban on beef. China's often used economic coercion to settle political scores, and some think that more aggressive trade actions may become the norm as the geopolitical mood continues to sour. But the fact that Australia was unwilling to toe the line with China, which buys 38% of its exports, is also significant. However, China's economy is becoming less reliant on foreign trade. World Bank numbers show that in 2006, trade in goods accounted for 64.4% of the country's economy. Compare that to 34% in 2018. Beijing has been trying to pivot towards a more domestic-powered economy for years, but there are signs that with the trade wars, the pandemic blame game, calls for deglobalization and decoupling, this will be given a renewed focus. As one political expert from China put it, it seems the central government will now put politics ahead of trade. China loves the multilateral system, but if it's not going to be acceptable to China, it will probably change direction. A recent paper by an influential state think tank said China should no longer rely on the rest of the world, which is becoming more hostile. Instead, it should be more inward-looking and rely on homegrown tech and its 1.4 billion consumers to power growth. Language used over the past decades about a period of strategic opportunity has largely been replaced by a new breed of wolf warrior diplomats who have fanned tensions with the West throughout this pandemic. With less reliance on global trade, combined with the fact that the economy is simply much bigger than it was, say, 10 years ago, some analysts expect more aggressive economic policy because China can simply get away with more now. Others warn that China risks alienating its trading partners when its own economy is struggling. In the first quarter of this year, China's economy shrank by 6.8% under pressure from the pandemic. This was the first decline of any sort since 1976. Ahead of the two sessions, veteran officials have urged China not to burn the bridges with those that helped build the economy over the past 40 years. Xu Yanhong, an advisor to China's powerful state council, has urged more aggressive diplomats to tone it down, while Long Yongtu, who negotiated China's entry to the World Trade Organization, said the country risks being left out in the diplomatic cold. The two sessions then should provide crucial clues as to how China will approach the world in the fraught year ahead. There are Chinese who feel like they are less dependent on the rest of the world, said Dali Yang, a professor at the University of Chicago. We also have a generation of Chinese who have all grown up in prosperity and who've been hidden behind a firewall and been fed a lot of this kind of wolf warrior rhetoric, so it's really self-fulfilling. The two sessions also come as the West reevaluates its relationship with China. Some are wary of China's handling of the pandemic, but many are simply tired of perceived bullying by Beijing. We haven't even mentioned the US-China Phase 1 trade deal, which came after an 18-month trade war and which already seems to be in trouble as China struggles to meet lofty US import targets. For some geopolitical watchers, the bruising trade war didn't temper China's behaviour. Rather, along with its growing economic might and nationalistic leadership, it may have led to a more belligerent force on the world stage. At the two sessions, we can expect more debate as to whether China can or should become more isolationist as it faces down some of the greatest economic challenges of our time.